So let me just officially welcome people to this Lunch and Learn, and to welcome Valerie Way, who's our presenter today, and going to be presenting on wellness and resilience. And certainly our conversation just a little earlier surely relates to wellness and resilience in a world that is kind of chaotic and conflicted. So it's an important topic. And Valerie, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I apologize for being a few minutes late. So I'm excited to get started.
Okay, it's all yours.
So here we are, topic of wellness and resilience. Are you seeing this? Got it? There's some reason I'm not. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. So today, I thought if we have a minute just to do some quick introductions, we're going to be talking about stress as a springboard for resilience. We can't have resilience without stress. We're going to talk a little bit about domains of resilience, and then, kind of pulling it all together, talking about the connection between wellness, resilience, and well-being. So, would folks be willing just to share briefly who you are and what interested you about this topic today? Maybe Marianne, you can call on people.
Sure. Wayne, why don't you start?
Hi, my name is Wayne Gustafson, and I'm an ordained minister first, and then licensed mental health counselor. I'm retired from my clinical practice, and I am a trainer for the spiritually integrated psychotherapy program through ACPE. And this topic is very consistent with the kinds of things that are in our training, and I wanted to meet you, Valerie, and just hear how it all works together. So thanks for having me here.
Great, thank you.
Gabriel?
My name is Gabriel Perez. I'm the lead program coordinator for Compare Rochester. We serve clientele in Rochester that have a mental health diagnosis. We have mentorship programs that we assist them through that is volunteer-based. And essentially, we send them out into the community together to do like recreational activities as sort of a way to destigmatize mental health and to increase their socialization.
Great, thank you.
Sanjay, how about you next?
I'm a Hindu chaplain here, and I interface with students in RIT, Syracuse University, as well as U of R. And this topic is very dear to me. I recently, in the last 10 days, there have been almost three deaths in RIT. One was accident, and 2 or 3 were almost like we don't know what happened. So resilience is very important for me to understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay. Amanda?
Hi, my name is Amanda Fossum. I am an LMSW with Care First New York in the southern tier of New York. We do hospice and palliative care. And kind of like Sanjay said, what the resilience is a very important piece in what we do and helping support other people in building their own resilience in the face of stress. So very excited to hear today.
Great.
Great, Sue. Sue, you're muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Sue Shady, and I'm a retired lay Catholic chaplain. I worked in hospitals, hospice, and long-term care facilities. And right now, while I'm retired, I still have a little part-time job working at the Margaret Home, which is a residence and program for moms who are homeless. And we have 3 moms in residence right now. And most of them have experienced trauma and housing problems. And so I do a spirituality group, and being able to tie in wellness and resilience is key. And so I'm delighted to be here.
Right.
Thanks, Sue. Zainab?
Hello, everyone. I am Zainab. I am Muslim chaplain at the University of Rochester and also hospital chaplain. I am here to hear a lot. God, it is so much needed right now for me personally and professionally too. Thank you.
Thanks, Zainab. Roger? Are you there, Roger? Oh, he doesn't have audio. Roger is, can I speak for you, Roger? Maybe while he's answering.
Yeah.
Oh, he said yes, okay. So Roger, you can also write in the chat if you'd like, but Roger is a full-time chaplain at Arnott Ogden Medical Center down in Elmira, New York. And he's a recent graduate of CPE. His first unit graduated last week. So it's great to see a former student there. He is also a Lutheran pastor, as he put in the chat. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I'm Mary Ann Brody. I'm the executive director here at Crossroads of Caring, and also an ACPE certified educator and an Episcopal priest here in the Diocese of Rochester. And I'm really interested in resilience because I usually have students who are overbooked with many things going on, and I see what's going on in the world and how important it is to pay attention to our own self-care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Val, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
All right. So I'm just kind of getting my screens organized here. So yeah, navigating this thing about resilience, right? Navigating life with resilience. Wouldn't it be easy if we all had Google, right, to navigate our life, right? We'd know what roads to take, we'd know what detours were ahead, how the quickest and most direct route to get from point A to point B in life, right? But life doesn't come with a roadmap. It comes with mentors and wise people in life to guide us. We experience twists and turns in life, and have these everyday challenges, and those they can range from very significant traumatic events, such as what is going on overseas. I just can't even imagine, to everyday stresses, right? There's a broad continuum in terms of adversity and challenges that people experience. So resilience is actually defined as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threat, or significant sources of stress. We know that much of resilience comes from bouncing back or even being better as a result of stress in our lives, right? It can bring profound growth opportunities. They can be very painful, very difficult, right? We don't know necessarily the outcomes as a result of going through them. And so all of this contributes to how we handle, right? How we're coping and how we handle the stress as we move through it. And as a result, we have this thing called resilience, right? So let's just take a minute to talk about stress, because stress is inevitable. Oh, so it's turning, my slides are advancing on one screen, but not another. Sorry about that. So what comes with stress? You know, many of you have probably had, attended different webinars or workshops about stress, right? You can Google online and, Google stress, and everything from, demographics of who's under what kind of stress, how stress is managed, signs and symptoms of stress, right? We've all had information about stress, and it's something that's inevitable. None of us are going to live life outside of it. We all come with stories about adversity in our own lives, right? And when we're working with people, we approach them in this what we call trauma-informed way, right? We assume that people have experienced stress, experienced trauma and adversity, right? And you guys, in the work that you're doing and providing spiritual support to other people, you guys, know this better than anybody else, right? You are supporting people who have gone through significant adversity and stress. So when we talk about stress, we have this notion of kind of a set point, and in some previous work that I had done, the analogy was used of a thermometer that you have at home, right? Some kind of the thermostat in your home, right? You can kind of when you're cold, you can kind of turn the heat up a few degrees, and when you're hot, you turn it down, right? We all have that comfort zone, right? And so the same is true about stress, right? We have this set point about, what we all can tolerate, what is comfortable for us, how we manage and navigate through stress or some kind of adverse event, and how we, after that stressful event, how we come back to our set point. Along the side here, there's these this continuum, if you will, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is sort of the continuum of going through it, or how people move through dealing with stress, right? They can have extreme distress. They can have tension. They can adapt or just kind of get by. I call it white knuckling it. People can seem to be coping effectively with stress. And then there's others who thrive and actually flourish. Flourish could even be another level, where they're actually a better person as a result of their experiences. So I want you to just kind of keep in mind this idea of what your set point is, because as you're working in your own life, as you're working with other people, keeping some of these questions in mind are helpful, so that you're getting an understanding of what your own set point is, and what the people that you're working with, what their set points are. So what do you settle for? Are you just getting by, adapting, right? How do you move from distress or adapting, to thriving or even flourishing? So resilience, again, this notion that it's an inborn or innate capacity to meet stress head on and to be able to transform stress into growth. So we talked a little bit about some of this continuum: coping, adapting, or just getting by, being resilient, being able to kind of bounce back after an adverse situation, learning, being a different person, but then, and also thriving. There's a really good book that I recommend. Dr. Joel Bennett is a psychologist that has focused decades of research, his own research on this notion of resilience. He was in town a couple months ago. Marianne was able to have dinner with him and I, and again, he offers this book with a lot of tools, very concrete tools in terms of being able to think about stress, think about how people move through it, and how you actually thrive as a result of stress. So if you're interested in some reading material, I recommend some of this reading.
Val, are you open to having people ask questions as you go along, or do you want
Absolutely. Sure. Is there a question?
Yeah, well, I had a question. You talked about resilience as innate or inborn. Does that mean we can't learn resilience?
No, I think that we definitely can learn. I think it's about, so I think the innate capacity is kind of that fight or flight, right? That we are all born with this internal survival mechanism, right? But absolutely, we learn how to be more effective in our coping and how to be resilient. And we'll talk a little bit about what those different domains are. But I think this notion of we have this internal survival instinct to live, right, and to flourish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I like the idea of there being an internal capacity, like the capacity is there in everyone. And how well we can access or develop that capacity is probably what you're going to talk about going forward.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Wayne has his hand up as well.
My question has to do with a kind of perspective. You're talking about resilience as belonging to the individual. And I wonder if, as you go along, you'll be including what resilience in a community looks like, and how the resilience of the individual affects the community, and how the resilience of the community affects the individual.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because when we do talk about resilience and even stress, right? You can kind of use these models, or what we're talking about, thinking about it on an individual basis. You can think about it in terms of families. You can be thinking about it at a workplace, right? You could be thinking about it at a church. You can be thinking about it at a community, large community. So whatever the macro, meso, micro system is that you're thinking about, absolutely, you can kind of apply these principles to all of those, models or systems.
Thank you.
So again, think about what is your baseline, right? The level of well-being, and then time. Right? Time heals a lot of stress and challenge and adversity. So when we think about, an event or multiple events or culmination of events, right? What we're doing is we're thinking about how are we adapting, right? How do we get by? And some of the different variables that influence that is, is it a single event? Is it multiple events all at once? Is it cumulative, right? How long has the stress gone on? So again, the perfect example is COVID, right? And COVID in and of itself could be a single event, but then it was it was multiple events. It was cumulative, right? Based on the impact that it was having. and then the duration of time, the chronic stress versus an acute episode of stress. All of that is going to play into the impact that somebody has at managing their stress. So, again, people can succumb to stress and have it overtake them. Again, I think some of the folks who might be broken spiritually, or folks that I've worked with in the past with mental health challenges or addiction, I think of people as kind of succumbing to being able to positively deal with stress and adversity, and they're looking for a way to fill that void within them, and it comes out in a lot of these other different ways, right? Substance use, maybe violence, etc. Same thing with struggling, right? People succumb, they also struggle with stress, adapting, or they can move through it and they can become more resilient, and actually thrive and flourish, right? So this is that continuum. And if you think about the people that you worked with, that you've known, who have experienced adversity, right? Can you think about people who might have that you can see kind of fall into some of these different stages, if you will? Can you think of people? Any quick examples?
We were talking earlier about the Middle East crisis, and just looking at the way the lines go here. One of the things I learned a long time ago is that we human beings always regress in the face of a stressor and a crisis. And what I see happening both on individuals and as groups is that right now we're in a time of regression. And the question that's always there is, what is it that allows us to move from that time of regression into being maybe slightly above the adapting line?
Right. Yep. Well, that's a perfect segue. And before we kind of get into some of those domains of resilience, I guess the other thing I just want to mention is that we don't live in these states forever. And we're usually dealing with multiple issues of stress at a time, right? There's multiple things happening. And so maybe we're struggling with one event or one stressor in our life, and maybe we're flourishing as a result of another stressor, that we've experienced in life. We don't stay static, and we don't live in the outcomes, right? We live in the process of moving between all of these, and I just think that that's so very important for us to remember, because when we are working with people who are really struggling, there brings a sense of hopelessness. And, many of us are in the position where we're providing hope to people in the face of adversity, and supporting them, right? And that's what you're doing. You are supporting people on their journey in life, right? You're not supporting them in necessarily an outcome. You're supporting them in this life process, right?
So as you're talking, Valerie, I'm just thinking that some of it has to do with tolerance too. Like my tolerance for different kinds of stressors is different.
Mm-hmm.
I can tolerate some physical discomfort more than other kinds of physical discomfort, or I can tolerate a certain amount of chaos in what's happening, let's say with the government or with politics. But then after a while, it's like, I have to turn the TV off, like no more tolerance for that. And so it makes sense that our resilience is different also in different, related to different kinds of stressors, I guess.
Yeah, and that goes back to that notion of a set point, right? We all
Right.
have a different set point of regulation, a comfort zone of, et cetera. So, yep. So let's take a second and just ask, what's your favorite resilience quote? You guys, I'm sure, have lots of quotes that you've come through, things that you live by, words to live by. These are some ones that I'm sure you've heard of. Any resilience quotes that people want to throw out and share with others?
My family is from Mexico, and one of the things that we like to tell each other is that, at the end of the day, we're not always going to be here. No one is going to come to save you. You need to save yourself.
In our family, we always joke about that line from the Exotic Marigold Hotel. Everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
I like that. You can also do this with songs, right? So what's a song that you get pumped up for? What's a song that really inspires you, right? So it's I enjoy making sure that we take time to talk about our own personal resilience quotes, right? Because we are living this every day, right? This notion of resilience lives in our families, right? You guys just gave us examples of family, probably at your workplace, you have or within your different communities that you're part of, right? There's resilience, quotes or songs that help us move through. So these domains of resilience, these are, groups or groups of behaviors, skills, and beliefs that contribute to resilience. Each of these is independent, and each of these have influence on the other. People have strengths and barriers in each of the domain, and personal development opportunities, those opportunities where we can learn, to be stronger in one or more of these areas, can help us be well-rounded and be more resilient. So we're going to take a minute and just talk through each one. So the first has to do with a vision. Oops, sorry about that. So vision. Keeps doing that to me. So what is one's sense of purpose and what is your goals, right? Having clarity on what's important in your own life and whether or not you're living your life in congruence and in alignment in all that you do. So think a little bit about the folks that you work with, think about your own personal life. Vision and values, right? They help navigate us through hardship. Can somebody give an example? How has your vision, your values, your principles guided you through adversity?
Well,
Go ahead.
to me, it's sort of the foundation, like the principles and values that I have kind of form the foundation, and that if it's not in alignment, like if things are out of balance, then I really notice that and need to try to put things back into a better order.
Yeah. And so folks that you work with who really struggle with vision, who struggle with purpose and goals and clarity, or their own personal values, this is a really important place to start when you're working with people. It helps get grounded. You know, that's a great word, Suzanne, you know, in terms of helping them get back to their set point, to what grounds them. It helps make meaning out of whatever the adversity is that they've experienced. So it's a really important place to kind of help people get back to. Reasoning is another component. So how groups or individuals or families are with being creative or innovative with problem solving, how they can perhaps anticipate needs, anticipate things that are going to need to be done, and being able to put plans together, how resourceful they are, and again, how they see the change. Are there opportunities for change? So for me, I just started a new job a couple weeks ago, right? And you know, I could look at a new environment with X, Y, and Z issues as a dread, or I could embrace it and look at it positively as an opportunity, right? And so again, your ability to reason, to look at, to be able to come up with ideas and plans, all of that is going to influence one's ability to be resilient. And, you know, I think about people, you know, in poverty, or individuals who have grown up in maybe single parent homes with a lack of resources, you know, who have experienced a lot of different, you know, maybe trauma, right? It's hard, or maybe people haven't learned this. And so this is part of what we're doing as well with people, helping them explore options, helping them be creative. You know, we're working with them at finding solutions that work for them. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. People's ability to be adaptable, how tenacious they are. So again, this try, fail, success, right? Do you get back up, you know, and try again? Or, you know, do you stay on the ground, right? And so, you know, the feistiness and grit, right? That's kind of that internal fight for survival, right? That's that innate capacity that you can see that come out in people. So somebody's ability to be persistent, be able to learn from mistakes, have realistic optimism, right? Not be Pollyanna, but to be realistic in what is possible, right? All of that is a part of one's ability to adapt, to be flexible, to be tenacious. Any good examples from the group on this, from your own life or from people that you've worked with? For me, I think this is why I love working in the field of behavioral health, is I admire this. I see this in the people I work with every single day. I hear their stories, I understand where they've come from, and I am in awe and admiration at their persistence, their tenacity, their will to keep fighting, right? I'm in awe of the people that I work with.
Makes me think about looking for a job. How, you apply, you don't get accepted, you apply, you don't get accepted, you apply, you don't get accepted. And there have been times where all of a sudden I end up with a job I never expected, and it just came to me. It's like, wow, I've been looking all this time and I haven't gotten anything, but this just fell in my lap. And it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another area of resilience has to do with the ability to regulate our responses. So, there's a focus on emotional intelligence, being able to modulate, and, if we're experiencing intense anger, grief, stress, right? Again, how we learn based on who has role modeled this for us, right? So, do we fly off the handle? Do we go out and take a walk? Do we go work out? Do we eat a whole cake? Right? We have role models on how to manage our emotions, how to deal with our emotions. Do we talk about them? Do we stuff them? Right? And again, so role modeling is huge in this. Teaching people how to regulate their emotions, how to identify emotions, and then what to do with those emotions, right? That's a huge part to resilience. Attention to our health and wellness. These are the behaviors. These are the things that we do to take care of our health and our wellness. So we might attend to our physical wellness by eating well, working out, going for preventative exams, right? What do we do spiritually for our health and our wellness, right? We might go to church, we might meditate. What do we do financially, right? So again, you probably have seen these dimensions of wellness, these models of dimensions of wellness out there. And so it's thinking about in each one of these dimensions, what are the things that we're doing to take care of ourselves? And usually in life, right, we're constantly trying to find balance, right? Maybe there's a time in our life where we're more social and we're neglecting our physical, or maybe we're really zoned in physically on taking care of our wellness, but maybe financially or career-wise, we haven't been attending to it. So it's finding balance across all these dimensions.
Valerie, I think it's important to add that for people who are caregivers, that not doing this self-care stuff actually results in poorer care for the people we're working with.
Agreed.
So it's just, and I've been at this a long time, and I still need to be reminded about that from time to time. So it's not something that we just know and sticks. We have to really help each other with that.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I shared that I have taken a new job, and there's a lot when you start a new career, a new job, right? There's so much learning to do, and I've been at it night and day and weekends, and I've had to talk to myself and say, what are you doing to take care of yourself, Val? You're jumping in, and it's a little bit unbalanced right now in your life. But again, it's okay if it's temporary. You just don't want it to be long term, right? But I couldn't agree more that we have to make sure we're reminding each other, reminding ourselves, reminding each other about balance. There's only so many hours in a day, right? And in a week.
And I think that's especially important for leaders in communities to do that, because if they're not modeling it, it doesn't matter how much they tell other people to do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the last areas, the domain areas, has to do with our relationships and our connections. And this is so vitally important in terms of resilience. Is that we know, right? And research has proven that the healthier people are, they're more connected to others. They have more people in their life. They have those connections. They're, and it's not only that they're receiving, but they're also giving back. And, if you take a look at this diagram, right, we all function in social circles, in relationships, and how we show up and how we influence each other makes a difference, right, in each other's lives. So you think about the people in your own life who have been your own mentors, who have been inspirational, right? I love this ripple effect, right? We call it a ripple effect, in that, we all influence each other in some way. And so knowing that, our relationships that we have an impact on other people. And again, we were just talking about role modeling and whatnot. And again, how that plays a part of resilience. So, this notion of wellness and resilience is so intertwined. And I want to say that when you have a combination of wellness and resilience, it leads to well-being. And well-being is a different concept. Well-being has to do with contentment across all the dimensions of your life. So it's finding inner peace, finding joy, being satisfied. And, for me personally, I think that I have finally truly understood this in my own life, in terms of, doing all these wellness activities, being resilient, understanding, working on coping skills, working on connections and so forth. But finally feeling a point in my life where I feel at a sense of well-being, right? And this sense of contentment. And, I think about the people we work with, and I think about friends, and I think about family, other people that I know. And I'm constantly wondering, do they feel this sense of well-being, this sense of contentment? And how fleeting that can be, right? It's a gift to be able to experience that, even just for a period of time in life. And then I think about people who haven't even had an opportunity to have a glimpse of that at any points of their life. Comments on that? How this all kind of is connected but different?
I think a lot of it does come back to the spiritual dimension. I mean, I know it's maybe my bias, but on the other hand, our sense of our sense of meaning in life, what's important, our relationship with our higher power, relationship with others, all those things are essential. So that's just where I'm coming from. Maybe other people feel differently, but I think the spiritual dimension is really, really, really important.
think the spiritual component includes a lot of these different domain areas, right? You know, the vision, who you are, alignment, what are your values, right? Being connected with other people.
Even the physical aspects. I mean, when I used to run, it was definitely a spiritual experience. Like I definitely had an internal response to that I would say was more than physical. Or yoga, if you do that, or any time when I'm physically active, my physicality is also spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested too in that whole relational aspect, and I was thinking about people who live in poverty and how often that inhibits relationships because you don't have the capacity to engage in the same kinds of social activities. I'm thinking about people I've worked with who've lost employment. And suddenly their whole circle of friends kind of gradually drifts away because they can no longer do the kinds of things that social group did because they were all economically at the same place. I don't think we think about that very much, that how that your economic status really determines or influences the relationships that you're able to have.
Yeah. Where you live, right? That's that
Right.
environmental piece, where you live, right? And the opportunities that you have. Do you have parks around you? Do you have, streets, with sidewalks that you can feel comfortable walking, at night, things like that. So that brings me to the end. Any other final comments or questions?
Thank you for the presentation. It means a lot, especially with like people in our industry. I think it's important to remember that we have to take care of ourselves to take care of other people. And we can also pass these skills on to the people that we help. So I'm very appreciative of it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Me too. It was really valuable. And I just think the whole aspect of resilience is so needed in our time, and I guess the bottom line is being able to take care of ourselves, right? So that we can draw on our own coping skills and gifts, right? We're worn out to do that.
Yeah, and you have so much to be able to share with other people then, as well.
Yeah.
The things that stuck with me from the presentation was this idea of how people can get caught up in outcomes, and getting caught up in outcomes really generates a lot of anxiety, which is directly related to stress. And the whole sort of mindfulness idea of learning to live in the present and being, paying attention to what's going on right around you. Even in helping professions, if a therapist is trying to cause a particular outcome for the client, that actually is going to get in the way of what that client really needs, which may be quite different from what the therapist thinks they need. So, and it just in so many ways, I see people getting lost because they get all caught up in the outcome.
And the whole original idea is to journey with people alongside them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Valerie, for me, it's the two very important things that I learned today. One is regulating your own responses, You get caught up in responding, even though as a chaplain, we are non-judgmental. We meet people in a very vulnerable state. But so that's the learning curve we need to build consistently. Even after 4 units of CPE, I'm still building it. And the other thing, which is very complicated, really, is the interrelationships that happen. So as an individual, I'm okay. But the moment I get into even my own family systems, many a times there are events happening which pull me down. So I come back again. When I go to the workplace, there's a different kind of thing. Now, at least I can control myself, right? You go to the church, there's a completely different Hindu temple environment where you have to be very resilient. I would say that learning is so important. It's not a point in time learning. It's basically an evolution, I think. So it's important to regulate, I think. And it's a very deadly animal, I would say. This is not easy.
No.
I just feel like saying it, you know.
I think you're absolutely right. I always said, how is it that I can, deal with X, Y, and Z in the workplace, and I get home and, I can't, I have more difficulty with it or something, and we all have these different set points, right? And, we all, it's fast, life is fascinating, and how we operate and how we excel and how we're resilient in some aspects of our lives and not in other aspects of our lives. I find it fascinating myself.
And Sue, as Sue said, I want to say this, the mother or support system for me is spirituality. Once I go to my scriptures and the scriptures say this is life, life continues. You cannot govern outcomes, Sanjay. That's what Gita says, right? You have to do a role. When I go to that space, I really get some kind of a lemonade in my life. Okay, this is what it is. Take it easy, Sanjay. You can't solve many things, but try to understand it as much as you can.
That's your roadmap, it sounds like.
Yeah, I agree. True. Thank you so much. It's so helpful. Very helpful.
Thanks for having me. It was really nice to meet all of you. I appreciate all the comments and thoughts.
We appreciate you being willing to come here and to present. So thank you, Val. We have another Lunch and Learn coming up in January. And this one, Leanne Patel, a nurse educator, is going to be talking about the intersection of spirituality and nursing. So she'll be here in January on the 3rd Thursday at 11. So thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thanks, Marianne.
Bye now.
See ya.